Good morning, class. My name is Tommy Cooney, and today I'm going to explain to you all why Pete Rose should be entered into the Hall of Fame. Now, Pete Rose was a baseball player. He played in the major leagues for over 20 years, such as a lot of Hall of Famers would. And the Hall of Fame is a group of players that have either done tremendous things in their career, like performed or received many accolades, many awards, or had a lot of team success, or changed the game in several different ways. Now, the way players get into the Hall of Fame every year is so once you officially retire from baseball, you have to take a 5 year break. There's a 5 year break or a gap, and then you are entered into the Hall of Fame ballot. Now, the Hall of Fame ballot every year varies with how many different players on there, but usually there are up to 40 or so players each year on the ballot, and you can remain on the ballot for 10 years. And if you don't get voted in after 10 years, you are off the ballot and you will never make it into the Hall of Fame, except for really rare cases that might end up happening here in the near future. But yes, so the Hall of Fame ballot, and it is voted on by the Major League Baseball Writers Association, which is a lot of, usually a lot of elderly gentlemen who have been in the game of baseball for a very long time, and they are the determining factor on whether someone will make it or not. Now, to get into the Hall of Fame, you must have a certain percentage of votes from each person. So if every single one, if every single person on the Writers Association votes for you in the ballot, that means that you will make the Hall of Fame. Such as Mariano Rivera did it last year. He got 100% votes, which is the very first person ever to get 100% votes to make it into the Hall of Fame. Usually a good number. I think you have to have at least 70 or 65% to get in. Um, Most people get in with around 75% or 80% of people voted for them. And there's a lot of controversy on who should make it into the Hall of Fame. One, because they're very elderly writers, that the people that are newer in the game that maybe, made some questionable acts off the field, or maybe got busted for steroid usage or PEDs or something like that, a lot of times they will automatically take them off their list and they will not vote for them. Where a lot of the newer generation and younger generation are really having big issues with that, because they're not letting some of these guys who have done so good in their careers, done so many things for the game of baseball, into the Hall of Fame, which a lot of people think they deserve. So Pete Rose, he is the all-time career hits leader for Major League Baseball. He has had 4,256 hits in his career. Now that is the most all-time. That is super hard. A good stat to judge off of if you're going to make it into the Hall of Fame. A lot of times it goes off career hits, career home runs, and WAR, which is wins above replacement percentage. That's for a position player. For a pitcher, you would go off wins, strikeouts, and ERA. But P. Rose was a position player. He played outfield, third base, and first base. So he played those very many different positions throughout his career, and he is the all-time career hits leader. And you would think that that alone makes him, one of the greatest hitters ever. And a lot of people truly think this. Now, the reason Pete Rose is not in the Hall of Fame is because when he managed the Cincinnati Reds, or whichever team he was managing at the time, most of it was with the Reds. Because a lot of players will end their career and then go ahead and manage if they are lucky enough to get the opportunity to. And so Pete Rose became a manager after he ended, and he was actually one of the last player managers, which means that yes, they're a manager, but they're on the roster and can be put into the game, which is a very interesting fact. Now, Pete Rose, as a manager, used to bet on baseball when it was illegal. As most of us probably know, betting on sports now, like betting which team will win, going into a casino and betting, or betting online and for different websites like DraftKings, this is all legal now, and you can make a lot of money if you put all your money into one bag and it actually turns out for you. Now, Pete Rose used to do it when it was illegal for anyone to do it, and he would bet on baseball. Now, the problem a lot of people have is all the writers don't vote for him because they think that because he did something wrong back then and that it was illegal back then, he shouldn't get in at all. But the argument that we have for Pete Rose to get into the Hall of Fame is that not only his career accolades, but also one, when he would bet on baseball, he would always bet on his team winning. So no team ever goes 162 and 0. That's how many games are played in a regular season in baseball. No team ever wins 162 and loses 0. So he was going to lose money no matter what because no one has gotten that much. The most wins in a season are 130, and his team's never even got to that point. So he was at least going to lose 40, 50 games a year. That's with a really good squad anyway. So he was going to lose 50 games a year and lose a bunch of money. But he always bet on his team to win. And it's legal now. So what he did back then isn't even illegal anymore in this day, which is the reason why all of us think that he should be in the Hall of Fame. He has so many accolades, and the writers, since they're so old school, that they just can't appreciate what he's done and how different times are now and how he should be able to go into the Hall of Fame. Now he was on the ballot, and he would get votes every year, but he would not get enough to go into the Hall of Fame. And because he has so many hits, because he has so many accolades, so many All-Star votes, he's been an All-Star at least 10 years. He has so many home runs. He's got 1,300 RBIs, which is really good, really good. That's probably fifth all time. And his career WAR, which is 79.7. So WAR is wins above replacement, which means how many games your team is going to win versus how many teams your team is going to win when you're not in the lineup. So wins above replacement means when you're in, how much better odds does your team have a chance of winning than when you're not in the lineup for that particular day, because not very many players play all 162 games, whether it's for injury or most people just take rest days every couple of weeks, usually like once a month, twice a month, they'll take a game off. And he's just been in baseball so long. He's done so many good things for baseball, and the writers will not let him in. And he hasn't. It's not even illegal anymore what he was doing. So that is my argument, and I hope I have helped you learn a little bit about his situation, why they won't let him in, and I hope that you will agree with me that Pete Rose should be in the Hall of Fame. He really should, and hopefully in the next few years we'll see more cases for it, and maybe they'll let him in. But thank you very much, class. I appreciate you for listening to me, and have a good rest of your day.